And for the main event, Glover Teixeira versus Jiri Prochazka. Teixeira coming in as a plus 170 underdog. Prochazka coming in as a negative 200 favorite. And first thing I want to say is looking at these odds, how many times has Teixeira been the underdog in his past 5, 6, 7 fights his run up to the championship? Has he been favored in any of these matchups? And here he is defending his title. And especially given Glover's win against Jan, to still be the underdog like that, I feel like it's some level of disrespect or something. Because he put Jan away. I was not expecting. I mean, lots of people weren't. The odds weren't. Odds makers weren't expecting it either. But it wasn't just that he won. He didn't like eke out a win. It was like he ran through Jan. I feel like in that last fight, which is crazy. Glover is 42 years old. He's a guy who's had a resurgence in his career. You know, had a mixed record, you know, at one point in 2014 through, you know, 2018. It was kind of like a 50-50 fighter. And then since 2019, he's on a 6-fight win streak, and he's the champion now at the age of 42, which is, just crazy, but great to see. It's like, you know, reminiscent of Randy Couture. Someone who's just got that discipline that you see in some of these great wrestlers and grapplers. It's going to be a great fight. I don't know how this is going to go down, because I feel like Prochazka is a wild card where I've still not figured this guy out. I've seen a bunch of his fights at this point. You know, he's only had 2 fights in the UFC, but he's had a ton of fights before that in these other organizations. And it's always hard to do an apples to apples comparison. You know, it wasn't a small organization, Ryzen FF you mentioned earlier, you know, good organization. And since he's been in the UFC, his first 2 fights in the UFC, both of them were second round KOs. And that was it. The last one against Reyes, the crazy spinning elbow knockout that he did. And I feel like he did something crazy in the one before that too, where it's like, you know, is this guy really training this, or just like came to him in the moment and, you know, he just took advantage of, you know, just saw an opening or something, or tried something and it worked. It KO'd the guy. I feel like I haven't figured out his style enough to be able to pinpoint like how is he going to do against someone like Glover, because I feel like the guy could do something weird at any time to end the fight. What are your thoughts on the matchup?
Yeah, like he's definitely very impressive with the things that he's done in the UFC. All highlight reel finishes against, you know, great people. You know, even in Ryzen, he finished CB Dollaway, who was a UFC fighter. Fabio Maldonado, who was a great boxer in UFC. Fabio Maldonado has amazing boxing. Like, if you ever go back and look at any of his UFC fights, like he's got hands. Like just Mo Lawal, you know, who was I believe he was like a 170-pound fighter. King Mo, you know, he fought in Bellator. I think he might have fought in UFC once or twice, but you know that now that he's up in weight, like it's interesting to see how that's translated, and he's been able to hold that and translate over. You know, I'm watching, you know, wins over Kazuyuki Fujita, who's a great grappler in Japan. Vadim Nenkov, you know, a Russian fighter. Satoshi Ishii, who I believe at one point was like an Olympian or something like that. And beating them by strikes. So like the fact that he has fought in Japan, where I think, you know, a lot of people have questioned the integrity of the sport over there, you know, regarding PEDs and stuff like that, and and come out on top and finish in flashy ways. Like he's been able to move up in weight and carry that agility, that flexibility, that style. And you know, we haven't seen knockouts like this like at all. Like it's just amazing to see him. With Glover, you know, Glover, I've been following him for years. He used to train with Chuck Liddell at the Pit. Like that's like way back when, you know. And like I don't know how long it's been since Chuck fought, but Glover is like almost the same age, you know, like so but he was right there with him. And you know, Glover just has that resiliency. He's tough, he's strong, he's been in all kinds of fights, and to show it at his age that he can still walk through somebody, you know, like he did to win the title, is amazing. I think if Glover makes it past the first 2 minutes, he's gonna win. But if Jiri can do his strike and his technique and stuff, like I see him winning in some flashy way as well.
Okay, well, on this one, I'm gonna pick Teixeira to win, because I think it's like you said. Essentially, if Glover can avoid the knockout, maybe in the first few minutes, once he gets a hold of a guy, and it's not that Jiri doesn't have any ground game at all, but I feel like he's going to be most dangerous in the stand-up. And if Glover gets his hands on the guy, yeah, he doesn't let go. Yeah. He's just like got that vice grip and that very crazy wrestling style. He's not going to let go. The number of submissions that this guy has, I don't know, it's got to be a record or something like that in the UFC. He's got so many submission wins, and not just in the UFC. So his debut in the UFC was in 2012. The first fight showing up on his record was from 2002. So Glover's been doing this for now 20 years, and he's the champion. What a great way to end your career. I mean, even if he loses this and he falls off from here, he ends up retiring. Yeah, what a great way to go out, because he did fight against John Jones in 2014 for the title and lost, obviously. Fast forward 7 years later, gets to fight for the title again, ends up winning, in the twilight of his career. It's awesome for Glover. But I think, both of these guys are veterans. Just because Jiri's only had 2 fights in the UFC, he's had a ton of fights. The first fight shown on his record was back in 2012. So this guy isn't new, just coming out of nowhere. He kind of seems like that if you're just a UFC fan, because he's had 2 fights in the UFC and now he's fighting for a title. It's like, kind of like Chandler, where people kind of feel like, oh, this guy came out of nowhere. No, he didn't come out of nowhere. This guy's been fighting and grinding and beating people, in other parts of the world for a long time. But I think Glover's experience. I feel like a cautious fighter in a sense, in terms of he's going to be on the lookout, obviously, for these, the crazy techniques that Prochazka can throw out there. And I think once he gets his hands on Prochazka, he's going to take him to the ground, and he'll do what he's done to so many people. And I'll predict a submission on this one, submission win for Glover.
Yeah, I would say it'd be hard to pick against him, because same thing. Like Jiri's going to come out, stand up with him. But Glover just is so good at closing the distance, and you're going to factor in he's trained with somebody like Chuck Liddell, who can hit hard, hit accurate, and he knows how to avoid that, and he showed it in his last fight. I don't think at any point, like maybe 1 or 2 punches, I thought he was in trouble, but like other than that, like he was in complete control against somebody who has really decent stand-up, and I'm excited for sure. Like I think this is going to be a great fight to kind of set up any more fights as well. Like who's gonna fight next for the title after this? I'm excited to see either one of these guys win. I think either way it's gonna be it's not a decision. Like it's not a decision at all.
Yeah, on the main card, for the last 3 fights, I see all 3 of these fights probably getting finished. I think the most likely of the top 3 that's going to go to decision is probably going to be the Weili Joanna fight, just because they're both so tough. That it could end up that way. But I think the top 2 fights, it's a very high % chance that both of those are going to end in finishes. So can't wait to see this one.